I want to get further perspective on this, so we're turning to RBC senior economist Robert Hogue joins us now from his trading floor in downtown Toronto. Mr. Hogue, good to see you again.
Well, good afternoon.
And when it comes to Mr. Soper saying that in Q3 Vancouver could be in its final hurrah, does that jibe with your view?
Yes, pretty much. I think what we've seen already is a substantial cooling in terms of home resales, and that's been going on through the spring and summer. And we do expect this to continue in the near term. And with relative to price, we've already seen in the month of August that the first month-to-month decline, albeit very small. So we do believe that we're probably cresting. We're seeing a cresting of the Vancouver market.
As far as the Vancouver market and even the national market is concerned, when the real estate agents told us that it takes about 6 months for policy changes to truly take effect and that we'd really be able to get a sense as to whether they worked or not, is that also something that you could look in the past for an indication of the future?
Well, certainly. I mean, obviously, most of those changes are not instantaneous, although the one that I announced on October the 3rd will have a pretty direct and immediate effect starting on money, as you just pointed out. However, in terms of the lasting impact of that particular measure, of course, we will have to see it in over a number of months. Because the market will adjust, find ways to continue to move forward, and with respect to the time it'll take to affect prices, that will also will depend on how the supply side will adjust to these changes as well.
So I see you're predicting here a decline for 2017 prices in Vancouver of 0.3%, far from a wholesale collapse.
True, and then when you look at the fundamentals, if you will, for the Vancouver market, we think they're still pretty supportive of the market. When you look at the provincial economy, which is as we speak probably the strongest in Canada, and you look at particular employment growth that's been very strong in the Vancouver area in the past year. And as well on the demographic side, it continues to be pretty robust. We do think that there are some supporting elements that will, make sure that the market doesn't collapse. Prices falling, 30%.
On the topic of the 15% home buyers tax for foreigners that was brought in August 2nd in Vancouver, when we looked at the Terranet Home Price Index, we saw that Toronto's prices August to September jumped 5.5 times faster than the previous 5-year average. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, it's continuous indicator that Toronto's market is still very hot, very strong. You look at recently the sales to new listings ratio, which is a pretty good indicator of balance that continues to point that the market is really tilted in favor of sellers. So to us, it's not a surprise that prices continue to rise in an accelerating pace in Toronto. It is a very strong market at this point, very strong demand.
So you don't attribute that to foreigners saying, forget the 15% tax on the left coast, let's move to the big smoke?
Well, it could. I mean, but how can we measure that? We still don't have statistics really that would track it on a month-to-month basis. So could some of that phenomenon has taken place? Yes, but is the entire price increase in the month of September attributable to that particular phenomenon? Who knows?
How does Bill Morneau balance the housing risks in this country, trying to keep Toronto and Vancouver from overheating without throwing cold water on every other housing market in this country?
It's a very tough task. I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, what he has is by and large policy tools that apply from coast to coast. So what we've seen on October 3rd, even though it was presented in a framework that Toronto and Vancouver are markets that needs to cool down, really what he presented to a large extent, the changes to the mortgage insurance qualifications really applied across the board. So it's a really tough policy to apply in Canada from a federal level. I think that probably to cool Toronto and Vancouver has to be primarily more at the local, provincial level.
I see when you list the 5 risks to the market in your report, you've got foreign buyers, speculation, new supply, local economies, housing dependence, but policy risk is the biggest risk as far as you're concerned.
Yes, I mean it is. I mean, as we've seen it, no, we can be in line for surprises on the policy side. Now we know there's a lot of thinking and deep dive taking place in Ottawa and across the country, for that matter. We have to expect some further focus on the policy side. What will be the outcome of that? We don't really know, but all that we want to point out is that policy is certainly an item to keep front and center in our, when you look out over the next year or two.
And with the crash in crude, half of the growth we've seen in our economy has been real estate specifically.
Well, certainly anything related to housing, whether it's actual real estate prices or whether in construction. Certainly, over the last several years, our housing has been a significant contributor to growth and one of the positive aspects in our economy.
Monsieur Hogue, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you again.
It's been a pleasure.
Robert Hogue is a senior economist at RBC. He joined us from his trading floor in downtown Toronto.